What's up, Lynchburg fans? The Jack M. Toms Invitational is back and better than ever before. We are in the hill city of Lynchburg, super excited to bring outdoor track back into the city of Seven Hills. It's always fun, right? A lot of action. Friday, Saturday, very different too, because we know normally we do have more Saturday action, but with the weather impending, we're not exactly sure what tomorrow is going to look like. So we have a lot of distance events tonight, and tomorrow just another full slate of action. But these races early in the season, a lot of the time people really think that it's just an opportunity to put a time down. It doesn't matter. It's March. But listen, there are some times and some people running in these races that are ready to look at nationals now. They're not ready to wait, and just super awesome opportunity to go out and burn the track a few times on this Friday night. We know Saturday is going to have an array of conditions. We're not exactly sure, as we said. Hey, it's the March and spring season in Virginia. We're just going to wait and see, but we know there is consistency across the board. All divisions represented at this meet, and that's not always the case in track at this time of the year. We know conference meets and tournaments in any sport obviously come down to the division at hand, the same conference, same locality. But listen, there are a lot of different schools from a lot of different areas in this meet. So we are just waiting, getting ready for the action. You think about some of those contenders that we've talked about throughout the years. You hear the names Frank Sorba, Sam Laneza, Allison Dell across the board for Lynchburg, but a lot of other athletes that are going to be represented today that are already ready to go, some of whom have already competed in the outdoor season. So we're super excited. We're going to take a quick break, and we will have the Jack M. Toms Invitational on the other side right here on the campus of the University of Lynchburg.
College has given me the flexibility to pursue my passions and my interests, and I've recreated my identity for myself aside from just being an athlete.
My greatest personal discovery has been that I am capable of doing things that I didn't know I was capable of doing.
To be able to study what I wanted to and continue to play the sport I love, all of those things came together very nicely in one package in Division III.
Want to have some outdoor adventures while getting a degree at the same time? At the University of Lynchburg, we have an on-campus zip line and road tours. Plus, we offer adventure trips that cost less than a cup of coffee. And did I mention our beautiful scenery? We're a university for students looking for something more than just books. Welcome to your new adventure experience.
be a physical therapist probably starting about halfway through college. I love the concept that exercise is medicine. We're starting to discover that exercise really can remedy many of the things that we thought that only surgery or only drugs could remedy in the past. When the student comes here, it's because we believe in them, it's because we want them here, it's because we believe they'll be successful. The faculty here are devoted to their development, not only academically but also professionally. We're not so inundated with things that we don't have time to make students one of our highest priorities. We have your back. We're gonna help you through that. If you're willing to work, then we're willing to put the work into it and the effort to help you succeed.
Lynchburg is all about you, your ideas, and your goals. We've got one professor for every 10 students, so you can get all the support you need. In the classroom, in the lab, or in nature, you'll learn by putting yourself out there, and we're right there with you.
I was really attracted to Lynchburg primarily because my dad went here. He is an alum, so I kind of have that close tie of being interested in this school. And the school had what I wanted to study. I knew I wanted to help people in the area of health and wellness, so the health promotion program was definitely a program that drew me in, and from day one I've been in love with it, and I wouldn't have chosen any different. I have never had better professors or teachers in my life, and I think here at the University of Lynchburg, the professors definitely care about their students, especially in the health promotion department. These professors want you to be educated, want you to have the experience, and just want you to feel confident going into your career path following your collegiate education. You just feel like you're cared for here and that you matter, and that no matter what, at the end of the day, you're going to be successful, and the people here really want to be here, and everyone has a purpose, and it's just a great environment to be in.
The Lynchburg Hornet Sports Network is proud to present another edition of NCAA Track and Field, the first of a 2024 outdoor season that promises to usher in some historic performances, national qualifiers, and yeah, just maybe a chance at some national titles. This is the Jack M. Toms Invitational from the city of Seven Hills. We are back in Lynchburg and super glad that you are joining us. Welcome on LHSN. My name is Evan Gates, flying solo. Really excited for this opportunity to see an early season meet, because we don't always have the luxury of seeing that measuring stick, knowing where people are at, especially in the middle of March. But that is why Lynchburg hosts this meet. And then you look at Dennis Craddock in just a few weeks' time. It's so awesome to see the progression and so many different times that are going around. Also, throw a third one in there this year for Lynchburg. The Hornet Open will be in action next weekend. Lynchburg will split their squad, some going to Stanford as well. But we have a lot of time on our hands for this track meet. This is a rather short Friday night, just a few events around the oval, but tomorrow is really the full slate of action, and so many people who have made the trip to Lynchburg. It's awesome to see people here on campus. You think about throughout the year, the amount of people that you see going in and out for sports, never all at one time. And Lynchburg is very proud to have these track meets because you see 20-plus schools in the facility at the same time, and we are just about ready to get rolling with one of the events that is absolutely loaded. We know this is a field in just about every event tonight that is going to be very highly contested, but this is the men's 1500, and in this first heat with 13, it's led by Frank Sorba, one of Lynchburg's greats, the 1,200-meter leg of the national championship, DMR. If you have not followed Lynchburg's track and field team, they were national champions in Virginia Beach, a very solid 9:47 finish. They did run faster in the season with 9:44. We'll have a ton of time to touch on that throughout the meet, so we don't want to overload the narrative yet. But we know Lynchburg has a distance program that is ready, and we have a lot of other schools here on the track that have teams that are ready. Davis and Elkins and Charleston heavily represented in this section as well. Frank Sorba will wear hip number 1, 355 PR coming into this event. Just about everyone in this section has run either under 4 minutes or very close, and that's what you wonder this time of the year, because the 1500 is not an event contested during the indoor season. You get so used to the mile and you think those 100 meters aren't that much different, but you do start on a straightaway. You have more time to really space out, get your pace underway before you get through the line for the first time. So this 300 meters will be very interesting to see as everybody waits at the line. The opening event was set to get started right around 6:30. Such an awesome day here in Lynchburg. The rain has held off for now. Tomorrow might be a different story, a big question mark. Put your asterisks in that conversation. We'll have to see what happens. But for now, just about 58 degrees and cloudy as the athletes will take one final stride on that back stretch. Let's go ahead and introduce you to this field. We mentioned Frank Sorba wearing hip number 1. Carter McKenna of Davis and Elkins, hip number 2, 4th in the mile at the 2024 Mountain East Indoor Championships. He ran 4:08 for the mile. We know that Lynchburg has some athletes running very close to that, 4:06, 4:05. Jackson Gibson of Davis and Elkins, the 3rd. He was the champion in that Mountain East mile. Jules Jeffrey Ramott of Charleston is number 4. Ethan Stansberry, number 5. Warren Teal of Charleston is number 6. Antoine Aflalo of Charleston is 7. Cooper Gibson of Davis and Elkins, 8. Bryce Davis of Lynchburg, 9. A 7-time All-ODAC selection. He ran in the NCAA Division III cross-country championships just a little while ago in the fall. Joyce Savi of Slippery Rock is 10. Cody Thompson, a local kid, his number 11, runs at Randolph, and he has been very solid as well. 2nd in the ODAC 800 and 4x4. He can really run every single event on the track and makes him really special to have around. Jaime Velasquez of Charleston is 12. Aiden O'Leary of Charleston is 13. We mentioned very heavy contingent of Charleston and Davis and Elkins. A lot of D2 schools in the house. Lynchburg, obviously a Division III institution, and you're right in the neck of the woods of Liberty, who is also sending a few athletes. The thing about track and field, folks, it doesn't really matter what division you're in because you see so many athletes who are capable of running at any level, especially with what Lynchburg has done and elevating its program the last few years. It's going to be a heavy focus tonight on the distance side. There are primarily distance events, also some throws down at Moon Field. All your results from this meet can be found at Blue Ridge Timing. We are super appreciative of those folks and what they have been able to do for allowing us to host these meets. All the numbers and statistics, we'll leave it to the people who prefer to specialize in those categories. We'll just sit here and talk about track for a little bit. We're super glad we get the chance to do that and watch some pretty good talent too. Lynchburg at this time of the year, if you're coming from up north, you never really know in the spring what the weather is going to be like. I don't think that's just a Virginia thing. That's pretty much all around the U.S., but it has been a rather warm February and March. Bit of a cooler last few weeks, but it doesn't really matter because you get out here and now it is just about perfect for these distance events. You know, a lot of sprinters will want the heat. They will want those 80s and 90s a little earlier. That is all. The field is lined up just about ready to go in the Hill City. The 1500 facility record is 3:41, set in 2007. Lynchburg's record more recently was Sam Laneza's 3:45 last season. He was also on that DMR squad. So you see Frank Sorba on the inside. Up and away we go. The Jack M. Toms Invitational. We're going to be keeping an eye on splits throughout this entire meet, throughout this entire race. We'll see what they get out at. And especially important in the early going to get that spot heading into the curve. You do have the luxury of starting on the straightaway. And we will see it unwind. Lots of athletes really looking to stamp a time earlier rather than later. So far, Jackson Gibson is in the lead around the curve. Strategy is so crucial for so many different coaches. They'll tell you different things. Doesn't really matter when you look at the numbers, though, as Warren Teal of Charleston right behind, 47 through the opening 300. You know, splits for the 1500 too are so tough because their 400s are going to be on the other side of the track. We'll keep an eye on those. This is a pace, as we said, expect it to go under 4 minutes, right around 103, 104. And the field has lined up quickly. Not too much separation. This is a two-section event. And right now, Gibson is comfortable to keep the lead. We know Sorba sometimes will do his best work sitting in the middle of the pack. He took third in the mile at the Indoor ODAC Championships. Let's talk about Jackson Gibson for a second in the lead. We mentioned he was the champion in the Mountain East Indoor Championships for the mile. Also national qualifier for D2 in cross country. No one really out of it. Sorba going into lane 2. He's going to try and take the lead going into the curve. Still sitting right behind Gibson, 150 on the clock. Just 100 away from the 800 split. It looks so much different from an outdoor standpoint. You watch the whole indoor season, and it really makes you appreciate how quickly these guys are moving. And around the outdoor oval, they can do it too. 2:06 on the clock. Sorba looking to make his move, and he does. The red in front, Lynchburg looking strong. Frank Sorba, we will tell you one thing. As a grad student, you understand he has the experience. He has been in this spot before, looking to do it bigger and better than ever. Little bit of separation, and now Warren Teal is trying to work for second as well. Gibson still maintaining. Sorba has a little more strut in his stride. He's going to have 400 to go at the clock, and looking very comfortable. That 1200 leg for the DMR, certainly a good prelim for the 1500. Pretty good equivalent, 250 into the bell lap. And Frank Sorba is all alone, looking to be in a different zip code as he rounds the curve. Wow. Sorba at a time of his season, at a time of his career where he has continued to really progress a fine wine. And down the back straight, I don't think anybody's going to touch him. We'll see how long he holds. You had to think from a coaching standpoint, this is what you want. Let him sit in the pack in the first 2 laps and show us what he's all about. Sorba around the curve. The field is starting to kick a little bit. We have Jackson Gibson trying to get into a good spot. Sorba just has to hold on in the final 100. He looks like he has enough of a gap to do so. This is going to be a very solid time. Carter McKenna has worked into second and under around 350. We'll see what the final time is. About 351 for Frank Sorba, a 4-second PR. And wow, the Division III best was 349. We will wait for the official times. That was impressive stuff from Frank Sorba. You almost want that race to be contested. You want it to be close. Put a little bit of pressure on in the final lap, because you're not going to have those runaway victories when you get to the postseason. One luxury of being at this part of the year is the fact that there are a lot of athletes who have competed at the national level in those tight races. And now you come out and you don't have that pressure. It's obviously an expectation where you want to go out, you want to be good at what you're doing, but you're not running to extend your season anymore. You have a little bit of time, and Frank Sorba, once again, just shows us what he's all about, setting the table for the second section. So Sorba stamps the first victory for Lynchburg as we transition into the second section. High seed is Devon Navaroli of Slippery Rock, 3:53 PR coming into this. Very solid in the PSAC Outdoor Championships. He's taken 4th and 5th the last 2 years in that 1500, so he's certainly capable. He'll be joined by Connor Allison of Davis and Elkins in the 2 spot, 3:59 PR. So there are still a few athletes going under 4 minutes. Allison has run 4:17 in the full mile. The Hornets in this section are Jonathan Cobb wearing hip number 8, 4:03. Ran a 14:58 5K for 5th place at Emory over spring break, a very solid start to the season. Don't forget about Josh Fretwell on the far side as well, the grad student. You can see him getting out very quickly. Just about ready to go as Fretwell immediately shoots out of a cannon as he comes through with the lead into the curve. Maybe some strategy there. Looks like Jonathan Cobb has been scratched. Lynchburg's been dealing with a lot of injuries on this distance side as of late. Something that is not uncommon. No, Cobb is in this heat. He's in the back. Grant Williams is also in this section. So sorry, folks. We got 3 Lynchburg Hornets in this section. Josh Fretwell doing the work up front. We mentioned Jonathan Cobb. He is very solid. He's going to wait until the end of the race. Don't forget about Grant Williams, who is looking to join the 6 Lynchburg men on this roster who have broken the 4-minute barrier in this 1500. That is something that not a lot of schools have the ability to do. It's just Lynchburg's depth on this men's side. So versatile across all distances, something that you're looking to improve, and all the schools at this meet, I think, are looking for that consistency at this stage. Josh Fretwell is in a comfortable position. Maybe he leads this thing wire to wire. Was out a couple weeks with a leg injury, but back now, showing us that he has not lost any strut in his stride. Those consistent weeks of training. Transfer from Roanoke College. 1,500 and 800 PRs from the Dennis Craddock Coaches Classic last year, so this track has treated him kindly. Moving in the lead right now with Chase Hensinger of Shippensburg right behind. PR of 3:59, looking to eclipse that again. 1:51 through the opening 700 as Fretwell will have one more 100 to go until he hits that 8 mark. Sorba, obviously, in that first section, you would have to imagine his time will stick to be first in the event. Never know with Section 2 sometimes, though. You get a few flamethrowers here and there. Fretwell's going to have company. It's so tough to stay in front when you can't see the rest of the field. An opportunity now. Hensinger has moved into the lead on the curve. Just a few more of them to go. Not like indoor where it feels like you're constantly turning. It's so different. You have fresh air. The conditions suddenly start to matter when you're outside. Hensinger sticking in front. No warning signs for him. We'll see what Shippensburg can do in those white uniforms. A chance to put some numbers up front. Josh Fretwell is still hanging tough. One of the Greyhounds is also in the mix. We're going to see what they can do. Shippensburg tag teaming up front. 1-2. Clock is looking very favorable and they still have a lot of strut in their strides left. Down the back stretch, Lynchburg still hanging near the middle, but right now Shippensburg has this race, holding it tightly as they come around the final curve. This will be an impressive finish and an impressive time if he holds this one. Wow. All the way down, Tommy Crum, 4:17 for a full mile, and he's going to have a big improvement in this 1500. Going to get right around 3:55. Jonathan Cobb has moved into the mix, but Shippensburg will hold on for second. Chase Hensinger will hold on. Cobb gets 3:59, so just gets under 4 minutes. PR coming into it was 4:03, so there is another Hornet that will go under. Wow. An impressive event, and you knew what was going to happen. You knew it was going to be fast, but some of those numbers, especially in March, you're just not sure where they are going to come from or who they're going to come from. Shippensburg's Tommy Crum really just stuck in that race for long enough. He's just a freshman. He came out and delivered. The crazy thing is we still have a women's race to go, and this field might be even more loaded than the men's. That stuff's subjective. It's hard to really look at a field and say, okay, these times are better. You know, track and field is one of the cool sports because it's not hard to discriminate between what's good and what's not. The numbers aren't going to lie to you, but the volume of athletes in this section is absolutely incredible, and it's headlined by Allie Zealand, who, oh, by the way, won a national championship for the 2 mile, and she is committed to Liberty, still in high school, but she has an opportunity to throw something down on the board that is going to be nuts for the high school climate right now. Miles Stat has her at 4:18 for the 1500 PR. As we said, national champion in the New Balance 2 mile. She was second at Foot Locker Nationals in cross country, but obviously this is a collegiate meet, so we should have some collegiate athletes, right? We've got a few from Liberty, a few from Lynchburg. Keep your eye on Adeline Fairley and Marie Hostetler, both unattached from Liberty. Fairley has run 4:23, 6 ASUN titles. Your 2024 Conference USA 5K champ, looking to return in this outdoor season with continued success. Hostetler has been solid as well. 1500 PR comes from the 2022 Virginia Tech Challenge. Lauren Massey was also in that race. That was one of those results for Lynchburg at the end of the season that was very kind to the Hornets. You don't always get those PRs on the doorstep of conference championships, but Lynchburg walked away with a few. On a banked track you don't get to run at very often. Blacksburg, a pretty good distance away from Lynchburg. It's not anything like you're going to California, but it is still a little while away, and when you have Liberty down the street, you get a few meets that you could almost call home meets. As the field toes the line, this is the women's 1500, and we are underway. It's a special occasion for Lynchburg because they have 3 athletes in this section who are all going to be looking to get back to nationals. Kayla Werner, 4:27 PR. She ran 9:45 in the 3K at the NCAA Indoor Championships. It's her first meet back since. Courtney Drum, maybe the best progression of a Hornet on this squad. Coach Jake Reed has talked about it. It has been insane for Courtney Drum, as she has had rep after rep as a grad transfer from Methodist, still putting down times that have been solid. And Allison Dell, 17:06 5K PR at the NCAA Championships. But right now, as expected, Zealand's going to lead this thing very impressively. We will see how the field opens up. Clock right now, as you see, is not correct. It is not at 5 minutes and 50 seconds. We'll keep our eye on that as the athletes come around for 400. A lot of separation. You wonder for Lynchburg what the strategy is, because it really hasn't been much time since those national championships. You're not always guaranteed an opportunity to come back. Lynchburg did make a trip to Emory over spring break last week. And right now, field's still not too much separation. We will see in the next few hundred meters if that changes, expected to. Allie Zeeland from the Pacers. Looks like she's going to be in a spot where she can really deliver. So we see the Pacer is off the track. So it's Zeeland, Fairley, and Drum. 1, 2, 3. Coming around. Big opportunity. .800, and right now, if you're the athletes, you don't have a clock on the track that is reading the right time. It almost implements a strategy a lot like those championship races where it's just go out, get first. You can look at the time after. Allie Zeeland, obviously her race to control. Courtney Drum is sticking around, and we will see if she makes that move. Coming into this race, 4:36 PR. And the indoor season PR'd in every single race but one. You talk about progression. It does not matter if you're a freshman or a grad student. 1-2 is still Zeeland Fairley coming around the curve. There's your time. At least it was, 2:41. And around the turn, you have to expect that this fourth lap will open up. Zeeland, stride looks comfortable for both in front. And coming around, they're going to be right over 3:10. Courtney Drum still trying to stay in this race in third. Kayla Werner has joined her. The bell lap will send Zeeland on her way. Just 2 curves to go. Will Fairley make the move is the question. Broke 16 in the 5K, 33:49 10K for a program record. Adeline Fairley has been very impressive, but right now it is all Allie Zeeland. The far side, as you see Jake Reed giving some instructions at this point. It is all gun and go. 200 left. 3:49 on the clock. 4:18 PR. It's going to be really close if she can throw it down the final 200. Here they come. Allie Zeeland, the number 21 recruit in MileStats Top 25. There is no reason to doubt otherwise. She has been incredible. On her way. It'll be really close, maybe a couple seconds over that PR, but she is still going to have a big result to open the season as Allie Zeeland cruises through 4:23. Right behind her was Adeline Fairley. Marie Hostetler will finish in third. It was about 4:32 for the 2 Hornets in this section. Courtney Drum will get a PR. Kayla Werner was right around it. Allison Dell comes through in 4:44 for the Hornets, so it looked like another steady effort all around. This is one of those fields that is so tough to judge early on, and you know every race is going to look a little bit different. But when you watch Allie Zeeland and Liberty is getting a good one, you just understand her comfort. She is not going to get rattled early. That's what the great athletes can do. Allie Zeeland just continuing to stack efforts, and at this point, it doesn't even feel impressive when she goes out and just dominates. But it cannot be understated, a very steady effort. And as we move into the second section for the women's races, something to keep in mind, we have seen a lot of early lap decisions that haven't really been rash decisions. You're not seeing any crazy commits. It's just about waiting, letting the race develop, and then taking your time out. Every strategy different. We talked about Josh Fretwell, the grad student. He's in a spot where he wants to get out quickly. But in this women's section, the second section, we will see if those first 100 meters tell the story. Lauren Twyman of Davis and Elkins, a 4:49, 1500 PR, 5:16.79 mile. during the Mountain East Indoor Championships. She will also have Ella Hessen, a 4:51 PR, right behind her, hip number 2. So Davis and Elkins, the Senators, will try to go 1-2 for the second section. Anna Fletcher also in this section. Anna Fletcher of Coach Jake Reed's Pacers squad. We haven't mentioned him a few times. Let's go ahead and clarify. Jake Reed not only coaches for Lynchburg, but also a high school team, a homeschool team that has found success as well. It has been very impressive when you look at some of their results, because Allie Zeeland has obviously come from that spot where you're just not exactly sure what your schedule is going to look like. It might be a lot like those collegiate meets, something that Zeeland and the Pacers are not unfamiliar with. It's running with Lynchburg. That's why you see a lot of the Pacers, like the Werner sisters, staying in-house as they came to the University of Lynchburg. Twyman, Hessen, and Fletcher, the top 3 in this section. We will see what time they can get. We did mention Kayla Werner in the last section. Well, Kristen Werner, her sister, will compete in this one. 5:23 mile. No official 1500. It looks like they were shooting the gun a few times. I don't know if it was a timing issue. Obviously, it doesn't look like anybody got clipped up. We might have to go back on second viewing, but nothing caught my eye originally. We know sometimes if the timing isn't synced up, obviously you're not going to let them run a race where you're not going to know the final result. That's so tough, so unfortunate, especially in a 1500 where it feels like those opening 100 meters are so crucial. Had a few situations at the Old Dominion Athletic Conference Championships. It's a mouthful. Where there were a few races where the time was either off, or we saw a few clippings in that opening 100 meters. So tough when you think about the indoor oval. It's a little bit easier when you get outdoors, but you're going to see those a few times. If you're just joining us here at the Jack M. Toms Invitational, so glad you're spending your Friday evening with us. We will be here all day on Saturday. Just a great opportunity to see some early season times. Today's schedule, as we have had the 1500s, will be the men's 5K at 7:05, the women's 5K at 7:30, and then we are going to hop off. The 10K will be contested a little bit later. You can find those results on Blue Ridge Timing, and then tomorrow, the entire day, you can follow the stream. Also, keep getting those results online. Projected weather for tomorrow. This was as of a few hours ago, too, so we're not going to say it's official, but high of 61, a 35% chance of rain at 1 o'clock. So I don't know if that's going to stick. They have said that, in layman's terms, there is going to be a few buckets of rain tomorrow. We'll see what happens. But we do know it can change in a hurry. As long as there are no thunderstorms or torrential downpours, we will be running races around the oval. So far, if you're a Lynchburg fan, you have to be happy with how these races have begun. And it's really just a testament to coaching, to early season workouts. You don't get much of a break between indoor and outdoor. I think that's a misconception a lot of people have. These distance runners especially are competing 3 seasons of the year. That break, quote unquote, is really going to happen after your outdoor season concludes, before you get back into training for cross country. Such a tough balance. It's the field still warming up, trying to stay loose. A lot of red and orange. Really, everyone you see in your picture is a pretty similar color scheme, just different jerseys. Lynchburg has a few athletes in this section, as you see Kristen Werner, hip number 9. And let's not forget about Lauren Thomas, hip number 5. She has a pretty special story coming over from the Lynchburg women's soccer team. Her opening season during indoor was incredible. This is her outdoor debut. Many PRs during indoor. Her best mile, 5:25, was at Liberty. But she has just essentially come in and made it look a lot easier than it really is. You think about Lauren Thomas, some of these athletes just don't have a perception of how hard it is, of what that day-to-day grind is. And Lauren Thomas is someone who has kept a smile the entire way. We'll see if it translates today. Hesitate to say this, especially with athletes that are just starting, but she has really specialized in the 800. A 5:25 mile we talked about. I think the 800 got down to 2:21. Really a training partner for another 800 runner you'll see in action tomorrow. Hannah Edwards for Lynchburg has been very solid around the oval in her freshman season. Lauren Thomas, a senior, but obviously she is in a spot where it does not look like she has wasted any time. We'll run down the list one final time as we wait for what we think is a timing issue. At this point, if we waited this long, nobody got tripped up, so will be something with the technology. Lauren Twyman of Davis & Elkins, hip number 1. Ella Hessen of Davis & Elkins, hip number 2. Expect them to get out quickly and work together. Anna Fletcher of the Pacers is 3. Cara Boderi of Denison is 4. Lauren Thomas of Lynchburg is 5. Savannah Hardman, Cameron Wheeler, and Lydia Falkenstein are 6, 7, 8 from Davis & Elkins, and Kristen Werner from Lynchburg is number 9. Kristen Werner, an 18:15 5K PR in her last race in Emory. That was certainly an excursion. Any spring break trip is going to have its ups and downs. I think for Lynchburg, they were pretty happy, pretty satisfied with those results. But everybody has a different spring break in America. You never know what you're going to get. And so schools, even right now, might be traveling down here to spend a few days in the Commonwealth. Still waiting for the official ruling. That's so tough for an athlete, just trying to stay warm for long enough. Might not even be exclusively a figurative term. It is getting chilly out there. When the sun sets, the wind here can be so tough. You really hope if you're a sprinter tomorrow, then it will just settle for the 11 or 12 or maybe 10 seconds you're running, because that is so tough trying to get a time that is official and legal at this stage of the season. So many analytics we could go into, and we might not know the entire landscape. Might have to enlist some help from our coaching staff. But normally, it is a 2-mile-per-hour difference that will make one of those sprint races illegal. So if you have wind factoring in a little too much. Just about ready for this women's 1500. This is section 2. Allie Zeeland walked away with the first. Lynchburg in a time of the year for spring sports where just about everything and everyone under the sun is playing something. You never know what you're going to get. There were 9 straight days across last week's spring break where some team from Lynchburg was competing. They're getting one more run out. Tell you one thing, it is a whole different occupation when you're trying to read what's happening on the other side of the track. Not in our job category, so we won't speculate, but they are getting a little bit of a jog in. Great day in Lynchburg. So many people coming to the Hill City. We have had a busy week as we touched on those 9 days. Softball was in action earlier. Doubleheader versus Sweetbriar. They got both wins, and so a very impressive result. Sunday there will be more action. Both baseball and softball will be in action that day. Tomorrow, track is the only thing going on campus. Mostly anticipating some of that rain. Looks like this time we're actually ready to get set. Starter has the earmuffs on. We are ready to go in section 2. Stepping up to the line, here we go. Projected field of 9 as we read. And underway down the back straight. The 1500, an event that we don't see in the indoor season. Some of those opening races. We do know that other teams have been in action already. But it's really special to have the home opener, the first of 3 in this 2024 campaign. As the athletes move down the opening curve, Ella Hessen of Davis and Elkins will sit comfortably. Lauren Twyman right there as well, as we anticipated. Senators have 3 in the mix. Keep your eye on Anna Fletcher, working outside into lane 2. You don't want to stay there too long. Fletcher will take the lead, gets in the pole before this curve. A smart decision. Once again, times are a little off, so we will see if we can get those ready to go. Fletcher still just looking calm and composed. That's something in the opening leg and the opening lap, whatever race you're running, where you just want to be having a sense of confidence. You feel like it really translates, especially in these races that are over a lot quicker than they start. Think about a 5K or a 10K. The mental game becomes even larger. You don't have the luxury of being done quickly, but on the turn, we know these athletes, the mid-distance, you really have to lock in early. Anna Fletcher looking to do so. Senior for the Pacers, a 4:53 PR. If you're the Senators here, you might even let her take the lead and just see if she can do some of the hard work. Draft behind. Lauren Thomas is also in that mix for Lynchburg, sitting in 4th. Davis and Elkins splitting the middle. Fletcher looking comfortable. This is the second section of the women's 1500, just about ready to get the 5Ks underway. A little bit of an extended pause, too, that we just had before this race. You're wondering, for some of the 5K athletes, how do you shape your warm-ups? Clock reads 2:35. Fletcher just about going over the 800 mark at 2:38. See a little bit of an extended stride. We'll see what this holds in the final lap and a half. Talked about Lauren Twyman and Ella Hessen, the tag team from Davis and Elkins. They have been sensational. 3rd place DMR in the Mountain East Indoor Championships. Twyman ran a 5:16 mile. 1500 PR comes from the Colonial Relays. Expect that race to happen in a few weeks' time at William & Mary. An event Lynchburg will be running at as well. Kristen Werner has opened up into the lead. She really waited, took her time getting to the spot, and it's a smart decision to do it before the bell lap. She's joined by Fletcher. Kristen Werner, forget the 9 hip number, in a spot where she can deliver. No official 1500 time. You got to go back to 2021 and her high school days since she ran this race. And now Kristen Werner. We'll see if she can hold off her past teammate Anna Fletcher. They're going to go neck and neck. It will be decided by the final 200 meters. They have enough separation to where I don't think they have to worry about who's behind them. And Anna Fletcher is taking off a few steps ahead. At this point, if you're Werner, it's just about staying as close as possible. Can you make the move in the final 50? But Anna Fletcher is holding everyone off. 3 still in the mix. who wants it the most. Clock at 4:36, a big opportunity to put something down for a PR. Anna Fletcher is going to hold this one going through the line, a PR for 4:49. Kristen Werner right behind her, and it looks like one of the Senators from Davis and Elkins got it done in third. Wow. It was an effort, really. Our first race of the day, we really did not know who was going to come into the mix. Anna Fletcher just hung around long enough. That was smart. A great decision with the bell lap upcoming. We know that Kristen Werner was really in a spot that she just wanted to put the pressure on, and then Anna Fletcher delivers down the home straight. We've got a lot of action left. That is our first event complete for this Jack M. Toms Invitational. Allie Zeeland will win the 15 between both sections. Frank Sorba wins on the men's side. Keeping the victory in the Hill City. We have seen some stellar performances already. We will have a few seconds until we get started for the 5K. Don't forget, we will be right back tomorrow. So many different races in track. I think that's what keeps it fresh this stage of the year. Events you haven't seen in a while. One event we haven't seen in a very long time, you got to take it back all the way to last outdoor, is the steeplechase. And that will be one of the first that we watch tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. start time from Jack M. Toms track. Different starting spot. It's still not at the finish line. Another unconventional one. It is the 5,000 meters. A few Hornets in the mix. Wearing the home reds today. High seed is Owen Knopf of Moravian. 15:10 PR comes in seated at 14:40. Some improvements this stage of the season aren't exactly something that is uncommon. You know that a lot of training in recent months, especially with the indoor season, can really separate good from great. You just don't know what to expect until you hit the line. A 7:05 projected start time for this one. We are a few minutes behind. Track meets might be the toughest event, sporting match, whatever you want to call it, that is staying on time, because there's so many variables. You're just not sure how long you can hold on. Sometimes it's not if you're going to get off track, but when. Tell you one thing, these 5K runners don't want to be in that category. They want to keep their splits consistent early on. Knopf of Moravian, as we said, seated first, an 8:26 3K PR to cap the indoor season. His PR in the 5K comes from February's Fast Track National Invite that Moravian attended. He was very solid in that effort. We'll see if he can break 15 today. Someone who has broken 15 minutes is Drew Topoli, running unattached. Previously ran for Methodist. One of Courtney Drum's former teammates. We know Courtney Drum on this Lynchburg squad. The grad transfer came from down in Fayetteville. Topoli has been really solid. His last race for Methodist on Tiefers was the Lee Last Chance meet. That was a steeplechase affair. His 5K PR is actually from right here in Lynchburg at the Dennis Craddock Coaches Classic last year. Nathan Hagel of Moravian seated third, 15:05 PR coming in, and someone who has broken 15 for Lynchburg, Cooper Hurst, hip number 4. He's somebody to watch. He's competed at the national level, competed at the NCAA Division III championships for cross country. He has just been impressive. 3:56, 1500 at Emory last week. The other Hornet in this section is Draven Fernandez in hip number 7. the Salem High School graduate from Virginia Beach. This is his bread and butter. He loves the distance events. We'll see how long he stays in the mix. He has had a few races throughout his career where he has just really blossomed. So much support around the track, something that makes Lynchburg special, and this is obviously not to put any other program down, but when you're looking from a standpoint of why Lynchburg, why is this the team that has really exploded from a national standpoint, you have to look at some of the characters up and down the roster. It's just the support, the amount of people out for their teammates. It is so special, especially during a time when a lot of athletes are injured. It's not a very common thing for a roster to be fully healthy. You expect a few injuries. You just don't expect them at the rate that Lynchburg has encountered. We will see what happens as the gun is just about ready to fire. Hurst and Fernandez, your two Hornets, and a field of 18. The facility record, 14:28. That's from back in 2013. Lynchburg's record is 14:08, set by Frank Sorbo last year. Right now, the Division III lead sits at 14:07. Obviously, that is applicable just for Lynchburg. A lot of other divisions represented. Off and away we go. Break line will really dictate a lot going on as well. As right now, the inside sits way in front. Frank Sorba is pacing, as you see with the hat on back and front. Bellamy Emanuel in the blue from EMU, someone else who has been an absolute threat at any distance. You talk about someone that you want to have on your team and not an opponent's. Bellamy Emanuel is one of those guys. He was listed for both the 1500 and the 5K. Obviously did not run earlier. And I'll tell you one thing, that would have been impressive, but we would not have been surprised because he runs just about everything under the sun. How about this? Let's go ahead and frame it this way. Bellamy Emanuel in his opening meet ran the 4x4, the 400, and the steeplechase. When do you see that mix? He's competed in many other events, the 1500 today. He's the top 8 in 4 events back at those ODAC Indoor Championships. And so expect him to really commit early and be confident in his abilities. Cooper Hurst is familiar with Emanuel, obviously both in the Old Dominion Athletic Conference. They'll just sit behind Sorbo and let him do the hard work now. So you're going to see a really steady pace. The entire Lynchburg team right near the finish line. They didn't even have enough bench space to get everybody on the spot. Clock is still in a good spot. Sorba obviously is a pacer, wants to have a few steps in front, try to draw this field out. A little bit of an extended workout as well, so you're killing two birds with one stone, bringing someone back from a previous race. Emanuel comes in with a 15:09 PR. Still in a good spot. Here's a little bit of movement behind him. Sorba is in the lead. Cooper Hurst is sticking neck and neck with Emanuel. Don't know how long Frank Sorba will stay in this race. Pacing duties are normally not an official distance. It's got to stay in as long as you feel. It's a little bit easier when you have your home meet as well, because it's pretty easy to say, yeah, just stay on, extend the effort a little bit longer. 5K is one of those events. It's not exactly the fastest on the track, but it can get hard very early if you don't do the right things, if you don't stay true to the pace. Such a difficult event. Looks like Drew Topoli is in a spot now where he will lead. Hurst will go with him. Topoli has ran quite a few races on this track. He's ran 14:42 before. Program record holder at Methodist in the mile, 3K, and DMR indoors. So he knows his stuff. He trusts who he's running with. Sorba still doing a smooth job up front. It'll be really once they hit the mile, mile and a half when you start to see the picture unravel. Topoli, Hurst, Emmanuel, 1, 2, 3. Frank Sorba pacing up front. Just 200 shy of the mile, 4:02. Talked to Cooper Hurst before this race. He's saying, yeah, maybe we get around 4:40 through that opening mile. You can't really ask athletes for a projection because the race can go a million different ways. It's good to have at least an idea of where you're going, though. Heard some coaches in the sports world, they said, everybody has sight, but not everybody has vision. I think it's really good for track and field. You understand where you're going. You might get there a lot quicker. Topoli, 4:39, 4:40 through the opening mile, so the blueprint is matching the current product. Sorba still sitting and trying to draw this field out a little bit right now. Emmanuel has fallen into fourth. Separation up front that sends Topoli and Hurst into the lead. Knopf of Moravian is wearing the lime spikes in third. We're going to keep our eye out. It's a lot easier to count your laps compared to the indoor season. Sometimes in indoor you watch the 5K and you miss one lap, the whole rest of the race starts to unravel. Now Topoli is the only one going with the leader. You wonder if you're Coach Reed for Lynchburg, if you want Cooper Hurst to get into this mix sooner rather than later. Draven Fernandez also has company in the middle of this field. Right now it is all go for Drew Topoli. Hurst is already looking a little fatigued early on. You don't want to start making that narrative now. There's a lot of time left. Sorba still drawing him out. The 5K is a tough event too, because if you're coaching, it's a lot of different laps where you have to focus, trust, and know when to send your athletes. Everybody's different from a running standpoint, from a mental standpoint. There's not one instructions manual that's going to tell you how to coach somebody, and that's what the great coaches do. They are really allowing their abilities to mesh with everybody else. They just look sharp up front. Topoli in a good spot. Cooper Hurst is still sitting second. There is a rather large gap between first and second, though. Owen Knopf in third, and when he makes his move, he's right behind Cooper Hurst right now. You have to expect that he will try and go with him. So you see right now, it really just looks like a pacing session. Frank Sorba in the mix. As we talked about Topoli, his 5K PR from here at Dennis Craddock, maybe a chance to rewrite that. A lot of athletes will be at this meet running unattached, and you see everyone from the running world out competing. It's so special too, because it's not always collegiate runners. If expected, as we've looked at our heat sheets beforehand, might have someone who was obviously a collegiate runner back in the day, but a former UNC grad in this next section. We will see if she shows up, but certainly excited for that one in the women's 5K. As, of course, Carter Norbo, 17:31 PR back at UNC. But right now we'll just focus on the task at hand as Topoli is continuing to roll. 2 440s would put this duo right around 9:20. They're going to be a few ticks behind it. Opportunity now, as you might hear our in-house PA announcer Sam Graham saying they are still on pace. When you look around 14:30, 14:40. This pace will treat them well as Sorba rolls off, gets Topoli through 2 at 9:20. Stellar effort. And now is when the job gets just a little bit harder. You're all alone, but you do have the confidence and you have the gap to work with. He has about 100 meters on everyone else. Battle for second will shape up to be a good one. Right now, Knopf, Hurst, and Emmanuel are all within a few meters. Topoli rolls around 9:51. That will, of course, be with a mile to go. Right now, behind him, as we said, Owen Knopf, an 8:26 3K PR to cap the indoor season, and really just in a spot where you can build momentum coming out of indoor, and it certainly extends. If you're running well in indoor, it's very rare that you don't get the effect going onto the outdoor oval. There are so many competitors who will just stick around for a few meets. They're not going to take a break between indoor and outdoor and try and extend that fitness. Never a bad idea. If it's not broke, don't fix it. And Topoli right now has nothing to worry about. All alone. Comes through about 11:02 with 1,200 to go. It has quickly turned into a battle for second. Knopf is a few meters past everybody else. As we said, if you're joining us tomorrow, the opening track event is slotted for 11 a.m. Meet is anticipated to end around 7:20, and that's if all goes according to plan. We already know we got a few minutes behind with some issues early on this Friday night slot. It's good. Maybe this is just tryouts for tomorrow, right? We haven't had an outdoor meet in a while. It's fun to have everybody back on campus. Will be a very large crowd on hand tomorrow, and Lynchburg is very fortunate to have a good amount of space for everyone to see. Topoli is going to start lapping people in the back of the field. This is where it gets interesting too, because if you get into a spot where you have to pass a rather large crowd, you got to know when to do it. You don't want to slow down, but you also don't want to be going into lane 2 or lane 3 trying to make those moves at an inopportune time, as Topoli is right around 12:10 with 800 to go. Big chance for what could be a big time. 14:42 PR. Keep our eye on the rest of the field as well. Won't be as close. 12:42 for the others with 800 to go. So anticipating that gets right around 15 or a little over. Our eyes are glued to Drew Topoli. He has not slowed down. He has not looked tired at any point in this race. The question is, can he make it through the final 500? Keeping this pace. Still passing the field. I don't think he's going to catch the rest, which will work out well for him, but at this pace, he might be searching to do so. Bell lap just about ready. as you will get ready. 13:24 to hear the bell. Wow, this is just impressive. He has had essentially a solo effort since Frank Sorba stopped pacing. It's really just the final mile plus. But Drew Topoli showing us what he can do. Here's the move, so we miscalculated that one. He's ready to go rock and roll down the backstretch. Everyone else entering the final lap. Bellamy Emanuel, 13:56 with 400 to go. Here comes Drew Topoli. What a performance he is putting on. 14:07 on the clock now. Expect a PR. We'll see what he has left in the tank down the final 100. No one is touching Drew Topoli, and as he rolls through, arms surging just a little bit left. It's going to be a big personal best. Chance to get right around 14:30. I think it's going to be 31. A 10-plus second PR. Now, the question is who gets second. Bellamy Emanuel has extended his gap. Cooper Hurst is sitting in third. Emanuel in a spot where he can PR. 15:09, the personal best coming in, and here he comes down the back stretch. It's all about personal best at this stage of the season, setting the table for something special. And here comes Emanuel, 15:03. His hands have been all over EMU's record book. He is continuing to flirt with some very awesome times. Cooper Hurst finishes third right around 15:09. The unofficial Knopf falls into fourth. An effort that was extended. That's the nature of the 5K. It takes time to develop. The puzzle pieces are there. It just takes time to figure out who is putting stuff where. Tell you one thing, there was an absolute no-doubter from Drew Topoli. Special work here at Lynchburg as the final finishers come through the finish line. Don't forget you can look at Blue Ridge timing for all the results. An awesome start to this Jack M. Toms Invitational. Keeps on rolling. So we said this is the men's 5,000. Such a special opportunity to get things rolling. And one final event that we will be streaming is the women's 5,000. Don't forget to join us again tomorrow. The 10K slated to race right after the 5K. 7:50 the anticipated start time. We do know that's a few minutes behind, so it'll look more like 8 o'clock. Depends on what this women's field looks like. So Topoli, Emanuel, Hurst is your 1, 2, 3 on the men's side. Let's transition into this women's race. We already had a really quick 1,500. And now, as they get ready to take the track on the women's side, we have another field that is rather big. You think about the 5K, you don't want to have multiple iterations, multiple heats, because from a time standpoint, especially when you have the 10Ks after, you want to keep this meet rolling. There are some athletes in this field, though, I don't think you're going to have to worry about that. They are very fast, and they are continuing to progress at a very strong rate. So you see the runners getting ready, suiting up for this one. 3 Hornets will be in the field. Seed number 1 is Carter Norbo, 17:31 PR. So we said the UNC grad, touched on it a little bit earlier. We will see if she is out there for this race before we go into the full narrative and tell you the entire story. All the action on the Lynchburg Hornets Sports Network from this meet, from this outdoor track season. There's so many awesome moments that you get to experience in track and field, and it's just even more special when you have everybody else with you. If you haven't been able to travel to the Hill City, we are still very glad that you are able to watch here. 25 athletes will toe the line for this women's 5K. The men's race had 18, and that almost feels rather humble for a 5K field. You're just never sure what it's going to look like. You have some races, you go down the street to Liberty, some of the high school races where they'll have 30 plus. Tell you one thing, that is very difficult to get on any track, much less an indoor one. But Norbo will be the high seed. Tara Smirla of Moravian is seeded second, 17:52 PR. 3K and 5K PRs in the final meet of the indoor season, second in the Landmark Championships 5K as well. Zoe Ward of Ohio Wesleyan is the third seed, 17:59 PR. So that 18-minute barrier going to be on full effect. Both lines in use, as you see up front, the normal waterfall line in the back. We'll see if this one's a little more of a cleaner start than we had early on. Here at the Jack M. Toms Invitational, it's going to be winding down pretty quickly here tonight. We talked about the rain in the forecast, so it might be some changes in store for tomorrow. Coaches definitely keeping their eyes on it. You don't want athletes getting injured at this stage of the season if something wasn't pre-existing. So some of those races, it might be a little ambitious to go out on a high hurdles race in the middle of a thunderstorm. We won't run it if there's lightning, but you get the premise. If there's a lot of rain in the area, you don't want to send your athletes. Now we'll see what happens with some of these other events, though, because distance, you just never know what you're going to be running in. I guess this is any track and field meet, but you have one heat that is all sunny and dry, and then 5 minutes later you are really running in a different landscape. You just don't know. And so we will have to wait for the full picture as we wait for the starter to get things underway. Our final race we will be streaming on LHSN. Day one. We're so used to doing other sports at this time of the year. Track and field is a very special one to bring to you. We know on Schellenberger Field right now it's lacrosse that is talk of the town, but we do have a very special event, 3 special events throughout this outdoor season. The anticipation as we await our starter. 25 in the heat. Question is, who will run through first? We know there is talent left and right, but on this stage, to start the outdoor season, it is anyone's game. All the adrenaline, all the energy, it starts to pile into this one starting line. So many variables, and the 5,000 who holds through. Here we go. So it will be a steady start around the curve and 12 more laps after. An indoor, a 25 lap affair. Got to start counting at that point. It is one of the tougher ones to try and get the logistics down. Right now, Tara Smirla of Moravian comes away with the pole. Setting the pace rather quickly, 40 in the opening 200. Nighttime sky just starting to wash over Lynchburg. We still have a lot of action to go, and we're super excited to do so. Just watching some of the people in the infield right now, you're starting to see it is not exactly the warmest climate. It's an awesome opportunity, though, to see what is at stake for a 5K that will unravel very quickly. A lot of separation. You expect so in these one heat races because you have a lot of different times represented. Let's go ahead and go through the field in this 5K. We mentioned Carter Norbo unattached with hip number 1. Does not look like she is present for this race. Tara Smirla from Moravian is second. Very impressive, as we touched on, 3K and 5K PRs to end the indoor season. Zoe Ward of Ohio Wesleyan is third. Sarah Gaston of Alvernia is 4. Sophia Park down the street at Liberty is 5. Her first track 5K for the Flames. She ran 4:49, 1,500 PR at the Charlotte 49er Classic. Elsa Home, McKenna Downing, Taylor Noska, and Sophie Kotz of Ohio Wesleyan, 6 through 9. Rebecca Brown and Grace Irvey of Liberty are 10 and 11. Megan Myers, of Moravian is 12. Maddie Grillo of Slippery Rock is 13. Sophia Mast of Liberty. Eleanor Lutman of Ohio Wesleyan. Tori Champagne of Moravian. Alyssa and Alexis Hockenberry of Moravian, along with Kayla O'Neill and Allie Meeks. Beal Roberts running unattached. Michaela Hassler from Denison. And then the trio of Hannah Herr, Delaney Salisbury, and Sydney Sint from Lynchburg rounds out your field of 25. As expected, some separation. The pack up front a little bit quicker pace to get things rolling at the 800 mark, around 2:55. Now we'll see how long this pack stays intact. There is a duo up front. Now the chase pack has some numbers right now, about 15 or so that are going to be in the mix, and that's the one that can really produce some PRs when you're sticking together at that rate. Tara Smirla and Sarah Gaston are sitting 1-2. Opportunity just to test yourself. The 5K is such a mental battle, as we talked about. It's one of those where you don't necessarily rely on having all the strength, all the speed yet at this stage of the season. It's just about relying on training, the weeks that you've stacked. Something that is so tough to execute in a race like this is the longer that you're going, obviously, lactic building in your legs. You're trying to clear as much as you can get. A lot of that energy just comes from repetition, and being in a spot where you're running a 5K early in the year is not exactly the worst idea, because it sets the stage for conference championships when this racing is very unconventional. You're not going to have PR watches all the time. For Lynchburg, they're in a spot where for the ODAC, it is a very strategic race. Not exactly going out guns a-blazing. Want to just make sure that you can take care of the opposition. Field still sitting strongly. Just outside 200 meters until they come through the opening mile. Still Smirla of Moravian. He's got a pair of 4, followed by 2 athletes in the first chase pack, and then the rest of the field behind him. Let's go ahead and talk about the Hornets in this race. As we said, Hannah Herr, Delaney Salisbury, and Sydney Sint. So good to see Hannah Herr back in action. It has been just about 6 or so months since we saw her last. That was in 2023, 24:56 KPR. That was at Virginia Tech, one of the toughest cross-country courses in the state. So obviously, not only did she come back to that race, but that's one of the tougher ones. And now she's back on the track. You don't always have that opportunity with injuries and just not knowing when you're going to come out and run. Delaney Salisbury has been very solid, 1938 PR, 11:17 in the 3K at the ODAC Indoor Championships. That was good for 15th in the field. And then Sydney Sint also in this race for Lynchburg, 2010 PR. 13th at the ODAC Championships in the 5K. Great night in the Hill City, 4 up front. These are the races that are really fun to watch too, because when this final mile starts to unfold, you just don't know who's going to make the move. Out of those 4 up front, body language can tell you a lot, but it won't tell the full story. You just got to wait and see. A lot of different schools in this race have a large number of representatives too, and you wonder if they're going to try and pack. How closely is it going to be? Right now, Lynchburg has Salisbury and her in a very close spot. You expect them to work together. It's a little different on the 400 oval as well compared to indoor. Some would argue the weather's a little bit better now than you would expect in indoor. Those dry tracks, you're running at some places where it just feels a little bit different. One of the 5K spots that produced a large number of personal best was VMI a little earlier in the indoor season, and it was one of the most humid races that those athletes had competed in before. They talked about it after the race, saying it was just hot from the start. You're kind of standing on the starting line. Wasn't exactly the complex at VMI that was the worst part. It was just a really hot day. Again, Virginia in February, just go ahead and flip a coin to know what to wear the next day. Tara Smirla still comfortable in the lead. That pack of 4 up front has become 3. And the question becomes, who will stick on next? $15 or 20 meters, we'll say 15, separating third from fourth. There are some big packs in the back. Liberty has 3 working together. Lynchburg working together as well. And as we anticipated, that separation really started at the gun. 8:39. Two laps to go to get to the 2-mile mark. The first home meet here at Lynchburg is the Jack M. Toms Invitational, the Code Red matchup for Lynchburg. That is where all the student athletes will be in attendance. Really special just to have everyone together. That will be Dennis Craddock. So we see some movement into the lead. This is a time of the race where you make your move outside of that last mile. It's very unpredictable. You don't want your opponents to see it the entire way, and that was just smart work to set it up. Clock still in a favorable position. Just becomes clinical in the 5K too, because splits are really as available as you want them. There's always going to be a coach on either 200. It's never that question. You just wonder, how much do you want to hear them? Believe that is Carter Norbo in the lead. Right around 10:33. It was just a pacing operation. She does stop. Was in and out, maybe just an injection of pace, trying to get some people in the field to roll. So the field will come up on the 2-mile mark. Are confirming that was Carter Norbo who steps off. So many things to look at in a 5K. 25 athletes on the track. You just never know. So Tara Smyrla still in the lead, but she does have company. It is Sarah Gaston, who is hung on from Alvernia. You can tell when the strides start to shorten up down the back stretch, it can be really tough into those final laps. They still both look like they're in the fight. And at the 2-mile mark, going to be around 11:30. 5:45s. Coming up on the back of the field. The 10,000 will follow this event. Can catch the results on Blue Ridge Timing. This is the final race that we are going to cover here on LHSN. Big thanks to Blue Ridge Timing for all they do, as well as the meet volunteers, the coordinators, the coaches, everybody who just makes this possible. It is time and time again an affair that doesn't just start the day of. You got to go back a few weeks, maybe even a few months to get everybody ready for this event. There were people out here early this morning warming up, whether it was pre-meet for tomorrow on the sprint side or some people just seeing the facility for the first time. But all the prep work throughout the week, it's just really cool to see this place transform into a meet environment that is arguably one of the best in the area. Everybody tries to put at least one Lynchburg meet on their calendar if they're in the ODAC. A lot of schools ready to go, ready to rip. Smyrla has some separation. We did anticipate for a second that it looked like Gaston was starting to really feel some pain. She is still close, not exactly letting Smyrla get away with this one. The outdoor track, it is just a different ball game. You don't have as many marks to look at, which can really help athletes open up. PR watch will be interesting for Lynchburg. Some more separation. It really just seems like one-way traffic the entire way around the oval. Not many clumps anymore, which will fare well for Tara Smyrla. 17:52 PR. Running smoothly now. Really doesn't have a large group to pass either, as we just talked about. So this could end up being a good time if she can stay engaged. Good opportunity to gauge aerobic fitness, especially as you get later into this outdoor season, because cross country is knocking on the door. One thing that is certain is that every coach in America wants to just put his or her athletes in a good spot heading into the summer. Trust your confidence, but also have something emphatic on the board, maybe a personal best, maybe it's a program record for some of these athletes. They have been incredible. We look at those facility records, we look at the program records. For Lynchburg, this is a season that they expect to knock down a few. Already did so not just on the school level, but on the national level. When you look at that DMR, 9:47 was the best time that had been run at the indoor championships. As Smyrla starting to slow down a little, just a couple laps left. As anticipated, it's going to be high 17s that you would think will keep everybody in the mix. Smyrla and Gaston 1-2. Alvernia, school that we haven't seen many athletes from yet. Believe this is a ballpark number. I think it has gone up and down a few times, but around 27 schools competing this year's Jack Toms Invitational. D3s, D2s. Liberty is a D1. There's always a few NAIAs in there as well, if not at this meet, at the others throughout the season. But let's focus on the track because it is starting to really heat up at this stage. All of a sudden, it feels like the race is in a spot now where it starts to matter. Zoe Ward of Ohio Wesleyan sticking strong. Here's the move. Right around heading into the bell lap. Sarah Gaston wants it. 16:32 on the clock. One trip around the oval will decide it. And here is the separation we have been waiting for. It's that last lap that can really paint a picture. Right now, Gaston's telling the story. 17:59 PR, a chance to rewrite it. 300 left. Line formation and the hip number 4 inside her final 400 meters. The question is now with 200 left, you don't have anybody really in front of you to chase. It's just continuing to reinvent the pace. Here comes Gaston. Clinical top 10 result in her last 20 races in college. Make it 21 down the final 100. She's not going to have anyone on her shoulder. It looks like it's going to be a comfortable win. An effort that certainly took a very extended amount of energy, but the Golden Wolves are well represented. 17:50 across the line. And Gaston will write a 9-second personal best. First place for Sarah Gaston, it looked like. Zoe Ward of Ohio Wesleyan was able to corral second. We'll keep our eye on some of the Hornets that are finishing as well. The clock still in a good spot as we see a lot of athletes rolling through. This is that time of the year where it feels so good to post a PR. You trust what you've done all indoor season. Some athletes don't run many 5Ks in indoor and then they take their talents to the outdoor oval. Much different story. Hannah Herr and Delaney Salisbury just posted something sensational for Lynchburg. Coming into it, their PRs were at 19:38 for Salisbury. Herr had not posted one. They were seated at 19:45. They just rolled through an 18:50. That was as impressive as a result that you will see at this Jack Toms Invitational. We have talked about some of the times. You just don't know coming out of indoor what it's going to look like. But it was a very nice finish. Comfortable. Sydney Sent is going to roll through now, starting to extend her stride down the straightaway. Sent's PR coming into today, set at 20:10. It's going to be her first time breaking 20 minutes, 19:55. We set a 2023 ODAC Championships result for Sydney Sent. She adds on to it today, and the final finishers down the straightaway will conclude day one from this Jack M. Toms Invitational. Wow. Tell you one thing, it's not always the times up front that make the most impressions on people, and it's some of those progression athletes. You don't know what the times look like in a field of 25. Seems like a large number finding those personal bests at a stage and a really time of the year that it just starts to matter very quickly. So it has been a lot of fun here from night number 1 at the Jack Toms Invitational. We promise we'll have more action tomorrow on the Lynchburg Hornet Sports Network. First event from the track slated at 11 o'clock in the morning. Don't forget those field events. Moon Field in action for throws all day today. Jumps will obviously be in the D zones. We have the jumps from a high jump / pole vault standpoint. Always think horizontally when you go to jumps, right? The long and the triple, those will be at the D zones. Pole vault will be down in Wakefield House. But it has been a fun opening day from Jack Toms. We are so glad you joined us. We'd like to thank the entire LHSN crew, all the meet volunteers, and Blue Ridge Timing for their services. Don't forget, you can find all meet results online at Blue Ridge Timing. It's been a lot of fun. We've got day 2 tomorrow. We're in that stage of the season. It seems like we always have another game coming up, right? But it's been fun here in the Hill City. Evan Gates signing off. We'll say so long until tomorrow morning.